Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Alona Faraday. I'm a Community Cloud Specialist at Salesforce. And today I'm very excited to talk to you about evolving to digital self-service with intelligence. Before we start, I have to show the slides. You've probably seen it a few times already. We are a publicly trading company. Please make all your purchasing decisions based on the functionality available today. I would also like to thank all our customers. Without your success, without all the amazing projects that you've done, we would never be able to get where we are as a company. And also, thank you to all of you who are not our customers yet. And thanks for considering becoming our customers. And today, I'm joined by two amazing trailblazers. It's Nigel Piper from Xero and Shay Marlowe from Kayo Sports. Very excited to have them with me on stage. So I want you to imagine yourself as a customer of your own company. And you have a question or a concern about one of your products or services. What do? Do you pick up the phone to call someone? Do you email someone? If you're like most of us, most likely you'll pick up your mobile phone or you'll go to your laptop and you'll try to find the answer on the internet. And this is why the online experience you provide for your customers is extremely important. So today, we're going to be talking about building that experience for your customers using Salesforce Community Cloud, which allows you to build beautiful CRM-driven experiences fast. We also call Community Cloud a digital experience platform, which means that you can use all the information that you have about your users, about your customers, and build a truly personalized, optimized, and fully integrated experience for them. And this year has already been very exciting for Community Cloud because Salesforce has been named as a leader in the Magic Quadrant for digital experience platforms by Gartner. We come a long way as a product. We started as very simple portals and chatter exposed to external users. And now you have a full set of tools that allow you to show information to the correct people using audiences, to expose business processes using Lightning flows, to expose content created both in Salesforce and outside Salesforce, and make it beautiful using themes that are available to you out of the box. But the most important evolution is not in the product. It's in the digital service itself. So when we talk about that journey, a lot of the time, it does start with providing the right information at the right time. So you expose a knowledge base that's available to your customers and to your service agents. And so when you do start searching for an answer to your question, you'll land in a content that's being curated by the company and verified by it, so you know it's true. And then if you do eventually contact a service agent, they already know what you've been looking at. So they don't have to repeat the same information over and over and again. Remember when you last called your internet company and it said, did you try to restart your router? You don't have to do that. Where do you evolve from there? So you can add more functionality. You can have a simple Q&A that can be easily escalated to a case. Or you can make it very easy to access your account information and update it as required. You can also expose business processes to your customers, such as registering products and renewing warranties. But there's also a lot of other evolution. So there's a lot of subtleties and a lot of ways you can take delivering that information to the right person at the right time. And I'm welcoming Nigel Piper from Xero on stage. And he's going to talk about the amazing journey that Xero has taken on that journey.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Fantastic to be here. So Nigel Piper, I look after the customer success, customer experience world at Xero. Been around Xero for 6 years, seen quite a lot of growth in that time. We've gone from about 100,000 customers to 1.6 million customers today. Xero is an online accounting platform, born in the cloud, and increasingly looking after small business customers, helping them be more successful in what they do. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the journey, what we've done and where we are sort of today, and particularly the work on Community Cloud. I thought I'd just start by saying that self-service isn't about stopping people coming in. So this isn't about me trying to say, I don't want questions, I don't want people to raise cases. This is saying, how do you actually think differently around the customers? So for me, I think more about customers that aren't raising cases, that should be raising cases necessarily, than those customers that actually are raising cases. That's great that they're raising questions and they need help, but what about the customers that aren't asking questions? How do I encourage more people, and how do I start thinking about flipping the model from being quite reactive and waiting for people to ask a question or raise a case? How do I flip that into a model where I can start reaching out to customers, start engaging with customers more who haven't actually engaged with us? A little bit about the Xero journey, and hopefully it describes a little bit of the challenge that I had. We started in 2007, 25 people. We had 20 subscribers. We IPO'd with, I think, about 200 customers globally. Going forward to today, we've got 1.6 million customers, and we have 22 offices, almost over 2,000 Xeros. And we've seen incredible growth. So in the last 12 months, we've grown by 400,000 customers. And in the previous 12 months, we grew by another 400,000 customers. So the rate of growth that I was going on had forced me to think quite differently around how do we support those customers. And then I start dreaming about what 2025 looks like. So I wake up every morning thinking, how are we going to look after our customers when we have millions and millions more? And that's what sort of keeps me motivated. That's what I love what I do. But the real challenge is not to think about today, but think about the experience that you want to give your customers, and think about the growth of your organization over the next 4 or 5 years. I love putting this slide up. This is just the history of Xero. That's the very first 2 developers writing accounting code on the kitchen table. And then the picture on the right is our CEO at the time, our founder, Rod Jury. That's the first meeting in the first office we had. We had a hotel room, an apartment in Wellington. We moved out all the furniture and created the office from there. We do things quite differently. We don't have inbound phone numbers. There's no 0800 numbers to contact Xeros. That said, we love phone numbers. We like ringing customers. We like talking to customers. But we don't have inbound phone channels. We aren't outsourced. We have real Xero people sitting in real Xero offices wearing real Xero t-shirts. Our people are trained degree-level accountants. So we try and have that skill set, which is a little bit more advanced, because we want to have really nice interactions with our accountants and our bookkeepers who deal with us. So again, just reflecting on that, how do we deliver world-class support to millions and millions of customers? That's a challenge that we had, and why we probably jumped onto the Salesforce journey when we did. We've been on a Salesforce customer now for around 4 to 5 years. Well, we started on Sales Cloud, and we moved to Service Cloud around 2016. Prior to that, we had effectively a home-built ticketing system. Software companies are great. People build things. But it started creaking, and it just wasn't going to scale with us as we started thinking about what does 1 million customers look like using a home-built solution. So we jumped on the Salesforce journey. I must say, it's probably the hardest, most challenging time I've ever had at Xero, was trying to convince people that it was okay to go and buy something. So for a software company, that wasn't particularly normal. Everybody thought that they could build another solution for me. Trying to convince them took a lot of my time and effort. So that was okay, they thought. It wasn't customer-facing. But it's been really interesting now that we've jumped on Community Cloud, that we now have, for the first time, a customer-facing platform. And we've come a long way as an organization where perhaps it is okay to buy something rather than always trying to build something. I quite like this quote from Steve Jobs. You've got to start thinking about what the experience you want to offer. What is it that you believe in? What are your company values? What are the things that matter for you? And there's lots of examples where I see where companies roll out a technology suite or a technology solution and then try and sort of cater the service experience based on what they've actually deployed. And I just think there's a different way of thinking about it. There's a different way that you need to think about it, and that's all about the experience, and then you go back to the technology. You think about how you can use technology to deliver against your experience strategy. That's what we did at Xero. We had a really clear view that we were going to have one day have 1 million customers. So that was the first goal that we ticked off a couple of years ago. But we had this real belief that we could be a competitive advantage. We could be very, very different. There was a way of thinking about service quite differently. We're a SaaS company, and so we have to be really efficient in terms of how we do things. And we wanted to be quite different and think quite differently, particularly knowing where we were going to scale to. So again, that quote resonates with me, and I sort of reflect back to that. Just reflecting a little bit more again about my role and my job, it's not the best slide, but it probably gives me an understanding, or when I try and talk to my exec team and C-suite around what my role is. And what I'm trying to describe is every one of those cylinders has to sit in perfect harmony. They all have to sit there, and if one goes up, another one will actually drop down. And so everything we do and everything that I try and think of in the day is all about balance. I try and balance the need for the most outrageous service experience we can give our customers. I think around our Net Promoter Score as an indicator. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's certainly an indicator. But then I've got to think about culture. Okay, so in my environment, people are pretty fluid and pretty flexible. We don't necessarily have strict start times. We don't necessarily have strict finish times. There's a bit of a floating period in there. People can get up and play pool. People can get up and use coffee machines. So we didn't want to create a culture that had people sitting with headsets on their head. We wanted to think quite differently around the type of company that we wanted to run and the type of support experience where we could engage with customers quite differently. And then I still have that CFO voice in my head that talks about margin. How efficient are we? How organized are we? And then the real big driver, particularly in a subscription business, is all about what's the lifetime value. I don't care if a customer is a customer in 1 month or two months. I care that a customer is going to stay on our platform for 5 to 10 years. And so if we give away a free period, if something's gone wrong, or if we've upset a customer, if we've got to make things right, we just make things right. Because we want to think long-term and build that long-term picture of the lifetime value of a customer rather than a very short-term focus around what we need to do. Very much started with knowledge. Knowledge, content was the only thing that was going to work in my world. And so how did we start thinking quite differently about knowledge and the content that we were created? We were fantastic. We had 9 different ways to find information. We had a .com site. We had a Xero site, which is a university site. We had our blog. We had 4 help centers. We had this myriad of content sources. Depending on what you hit, depended on what sort of response and what sort of answer you got back. So often, the answer you got back was very, very different if you had actually gone to another source of content. Hopefully, I'm not the only company that had that challenge, but we had to think very, very differently around how do we thought about our content, how we ordered it, how we structured it, and we actually had a taxonomy of knowledge created, which is probably an 18-month piece of work. But that was a fundamental shift for us to think quite differently around how we looked after our customers. And why I say that is customers are changing. Customers' expectations are quite different. There's a real belief now that customers want to find information themselves. They're quite happy going into your website and finding information, but they want that information to be really easy to find. Customers want you to use data. They want you to use information that you know about them, but they want you to be really mindful of their security and their privacy of that information. So we really thought quite differently around this, and we thought, well, if we could serve up content, then that's really got to be a better experience. So it wasn't about phones or email or support. What it was about is saying, why don't we just help customers in real time? And as they start asking questions, we'll start surfacing content to them. And we did some quite clever things around that. So we partnered with a company called Kayo. And so what we started doing is machine learning search capability and machine learning search algorithms. So as we served up content, it was based on how other people had asked that question. We knew information about the customer. We knew where they were, how important they were to us, what region they were in, the name of their cat. We knew lots and lots of information, but how do we think quite differently, and how do we use that information to actually make a better experience than another channel? And this is what we've achieved so far. This is where we started from. People, I wouldn't typically put this slide up, but people seem quite interested in knowing how we actually went on the Salesforce journey. So started obviously on Service Cloud, went to Lightning Knowledge, created the most amazing content source of information, brought in AI, machine learning, federated search using Kayo, and introduced Lightning for agents. And again, only probably about 9 months ago, we went live with Community Cloud. Happy to talk about any of this at some stage later, but I thought I'd just share and see some of the journey and how we differentiated ourselves from perhaps some of the normal. So when I talk about the Community Cloud, I talk about Xero Central. Xero Central is our gateway, is our one way in for everybody to receive information and to ask information of Xero, seek help, and increasingly it's become just a central point of where everybody actually goes. So we launched back in May 2018 just by surfacing content. So people could go in there, we merged all our help centers together, we went to profiles and discussions, we jumped on to My Cases, which has only been live now for 3 weeks, so people can see all of their cases in one go. And the next journey is going to be around personalized learning experiences. How can we take a person and on a personalized learning journey in terms of understanding Xero, particularly our new users? So if you want to look and see what My Cases look like, I'll just let that rotate through. But you can see pretty beautiful design, pretty simple. You'll notice there's not a whole lot of menus, submenus. We again use machine learning capability through our search functionality so we know what content to serve up. So really simple ways. And even if they want to go and raise a case with us, we'll actually modify that content to them in real time based on what they're typing. And how have we achieved things? So we've had 20% increase in customer NPS. While our subscriber base has grown by over 125%, we've reduced our cost by 37%. We have almost 12 million hits now into Xero Central, and most 90% of the questions that are asked, the help that people need, is actually asked by content, answered by content, I should say. And I just wanted to touch, this is my last slide, and I'm not going to go through all of these points, but again, it's a reflection time for us to start thinking about learning. And the first thing I just want to talk about is this the first bullet point. The internal conversation is harder than the external conversation. Customers are great. Customers are adaptive. They'll be really happy to try different experiences, right? The hardest thing was to try and convince internally people what we were doing. Don't get me wrong, we still spend a lot of time with our customers and really try to explain their journey and the experience we were going to give them. But the hardest challenge was internal. And I would encourage anybody to think about that message and how you need to sell that if you're going through on your own journey. So that's me. Thank you very much. I hope that was useful. I'll be around at the end for any other questions you have.
Thanks, Nigel, for this amazing story. And now we'll hear from Shay Marlowe from Kayo Sports.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Shay from Kayo Sports, and I thought I look after the consumer service team there, which looks after platforms, being Salesforce and its integrations, operations, the contact center team, and also our voice of customer program. Before I go into our journey to date, I thought it was, for those of you that don't know Kayo, I'd like to give you a bit of an intro to Kayo. Kayo Sports is 14 weeks young. We launched in November last year. It is a sports streaming service, a subscription service. It offers 50 sports and over 30,000 sports live and on demand. What is very interesting about working at Kayo is that from start to finish, so our product, our tech, dev, content, all these teams are very consumer-centric, which makes it great fun, but also a fair bit of high pressure in terms of what can we deliver to these customers to make it a great experience. So what I want to talk through is our journey and how we've started from scratch and got all the way to where we are now. So I'm going to talk through performance and how we got there. So our main focus is digital service only. We are a digital service design. We have no phones, and our contact center is digital only onshore. So we had to focus really on how are we going to serve these customers that needed help with Kayo, learning about it and using the product. So first we had to look at self-service as a model. So that's our funnel that you're looking at there. So self-service in a customer will find the solutions that they need when they need it. And then how does that then go into automated bot? So I'll talk through how we also set up the bot there. And then for those questions that can't be answered from self-service, how does that go into assisted care? And then the third pillar of all of it is of all those questions that are coming through, so a customer doesn't know what content is available, what subscription, they're getting buffering, any of that type of thing. They want Android TV. We are, as part of my team, we are pulling together all that information from data and then feeding that back to the business so the customer doesn't have to keep asking the same question over and over, and the agents don't have to keep giving the same answers over and over also. So the Kayo journey, it's been more of a dance than a journey. You know, it's been great to start with something from scratch. I appreciate that not every business gets to do that. But really, similar to what Nigel was saying, there's still been a lot of buy-in. There's still questions day in, day out, conflicting with other parts of the business on why we're doing things certain ways. And so we've gone from a traditional reactive, and we've got a bit of a journey to go. It was in the press recently. We've hit 100,000 subscribers in those 14 weeks, but we have a long way to go. And, you know, listening to Nigel's story, there's a fair way to go for us too. So with that, I wanted to show you exactly what this journey has looked like and hopefully give you some excitement around it. So one of the values at Kayo is no BS, so I thought I might as well be pretty transparent and show you exactly where we're standing after 14 weeks. What you can see at the top there is a trend line, but essentially we're showing 92% of all people that need help with Kayo are solving before they then turn that into a case or have to come through to the contact centre. Now, interestingly enough, I won't mention any names because they are in the floor here, but we set a benchmark of 5% for our bot, and we had no idea how a bot would go, right? And on a product that we didn't know. Our bot is performing at 14% of that 92. And of the bot, 1/3 of those cases being resolved predominantly by the bot, or completely by the bot, in fact, and then 2/3 are then being handed over to an agent. So one of our rule of thumbs currently is that the bot is only there when there's a live agent underneath to be able to hand over in case they get frustrated. So where do we want to go from here? Talk about our scale, is that we want to get that bot up to 25%. So there's a fair bit of work to get to that. But I thought I would now show you how we got to that 92% for our community as a starter. So look, there's a lot of research out there. We spent quite a few weeks looking at competitors, looking at subscription services. We put ourselves in everyone else's shoes at the risk of saying journey mapping. We did a lot of that. And then also any sample data that you might have. So international streaming product, Watch AFL and NRL, we had some access to that as part of our Stream Motion or Kayo team. So we put all that together, did some journey mapping, and what you can actually see there is discover, manage, and troubleshoot. Discover is customers trying to figure out what the product is. Manage is then they've got the product, now they're trying to do something with their subscription. And then you've got troubleshoot. So I'm having trouble watching on Android, on the TV, Chromecast, etc. So then once we got that framework in place, we then brought in all the troops from the various Kayo teams, marketing, design. Because this is community off-platform from Kayo.com itself, we wanted it to make sure that it looked exactly like what the product was so the customers still felt they had that same experience. And so design came in, brand came in, tone of voice comes in. We have quite a approval process that takes place, and so the content will come through, and then we have one of our brand or tone of voice guys come in, and he then overlooks and makes sure it sounds just like a Kayo experience. Then lastly, there's daily optimization, literally. So we have a full-time resource that looks at the community every single day, looking at all the analytics, what people are looking at, and I'll get to the optimization piece on how that also feeds back into the whole optimization strategy. Introducing Kbot. So Kbot launched with us also in November. And so it was very similar. We're running this in parallel. I can't remember the exact months, but Salesforce only made it GA. We were the first commercial buyers in Australia. I then tasked the team saying, all right, what do you need to do to be able to make us launch with the bot in November? Everyone sort of smiled, and then we were on our merry way. So very similar. So again, customer journey data, but then picking exactly what might be the biggest high impact. You don't have to start with an amazing bot. It can be overwhelming. It's just what are the couple of things that you might be able to put in that will take a lot of the weight off the contact center, but also be a good experience for the customer. So it's not a sprint at all. We went menu-based first, and I'm going to show you exactly the roadmap of what we did. Again, on brand. So you bring in, as you can see there, we've got emojis. We've got the brand guy. Again, he comes in, he reviews he reviews and he also updates and provides that copy for us. Also the expectation piece. You can see there we're being very, very transparent to say we're a bot. We don't really know everything right now, but bear with us and we're going to try and solve for you. So that's really important too. And then lastly, again, daily review and optimization. And my team get pretty frustrated in that I want to look at it every single day, but it's just critical that you do. So this is, how many of you love Confluence? Anyway, this is a copy and paste exactly, again, in the spirit of being transparent, a copy and paste of exactly what is in our Confluence of how we rolled out. So you've got your base build and the technology side of things with Salesforce and our system integrators at the top. You then went into menu base. So we started with 3, we're now into 5, and that's evolving. And then you've got the intents. And the intent piece of work is quite interesting. If anyone wants to chat on that, there's a few of us that might be able to explain how that process goes. But essentially what you're seeing here is, you can see the bottom. So since launch, we have had 4 iterations. We had a 1.5, 2.0, 3.0, about to go 4.0. We're looking at every 2 weeks or a month. So we don't just sit there, we're still evolving it every single time. This is my favorite part, much to my team's dismay, I think, but optimization. So you can put all that in place. It's only been 14 weeks. We could say, yep, 92% is great, 14% is great, leave it at that and see how we go. But it's really important that we keep optimizing this because as we scale, that story could change a little bit. So finger on the pulse. So what we do is we look at contact cases. So we are in Service Cloud too. So we can see everything under the hood of Salesforce. So the way customers are asking questions, the types, taxonomy Nigel referred to before, what are the types of queries that are coming through? Is there a trend in that we could pick that and put that into the bot or update the portal to be able to also reflect that? You've got community, so thumbs up, thumbs down, unique visitors, where are they exiting from? How are they asking questions in search? How are they asking questions in Google? And then always optimizing that as well. And then the bot. The bot is brand new, so it is tricky to get some of that content out and understand exactly what the bot is solving for. But now with Einstein Analytics that we've just got, we're able to now see a bit more of that data to be able to help improve it. And then lastly, customer effort score. This is the way that we're measuring our satisfaction of customers that have an interaction with help. So making sure that all of that marries up with everything that we're trying to do. So if the bot is performing at 14% and we can see a resolution, but customer effort score is actually 2 out of 7, it's not doing its job. So how do we then improve that? Sorry. And then lastly, this is our roadmap. And essentially it's just to say that we are only on the start of our journey. We have a long way to go. We spun up Salesforce, the Service Cloud, the bot, bit of community and Social Studio in 16 weeks. So a lot of effort went into it. Everyone's pretty tired by the end, and the roadmap, as you can see, there's still a fair bit to go. Some of the exciting things to come up, voice bot. We're going to test the bot for after hours. These aren't my words, one of my team, but why don't we introduce it as a, hey, I'm the K-bot on a night shift, because we currently don't offer 24/7 support. So once the business starts asking that question, maybe we could trial that and have that in our back pocket. One of the last key things out of all of this is that it's all about teams. So there's a lot that goes into it. And similar to what Nigel was saying in that the hardest thing is the buy-in. But I think if you can build a team around you that gets it, that is motivated by it, that lives and breathes it, then that makes all the difference. And so my team are here in the front row. And they thank you to you guys because it's been quite a journey. We've still got a long way to go. But yeah, so thank you to them. Thank you for your time. And feel free to ask me any questions. Enjoy the rest of your world tour.
Thank you, Shay. If you want to learn more about service and Salesforce Service Cloud and field service, please come to the next session. This is it for us. Thank you so much for listening to our stories and about evolving to digital service with intelligence. Thank you.